Welcome viewers. Today we will be discussing on the topic restriction and ligation of vectors. Restriction enzyme digestion and ligation of the DNA are the two important steps of DNA cloning. So let's start with the term clone. Clone is basically a collection of molecules or cells. All of them are identical to the original molecule. To clone a gene means to make many copies of the gene by means of replicating that piece of DNA inside a suitable host cell. It may be a bacterial cell. And what do I understand by the term recombinant DNA technology? Recombinant DNA technology actually makes the process of cloning feasible. So let's start with the steps of cloning. Cloning basically comprises of 5 important steps. Number 1 step is generation of a suitable vector DNA by digesting it with a suitable restriction endonucleases. And second is to create the foreign DNA which is of our interest by means of restriction enzyme digestion. Third step is the ligation of these two pieces of DNA which are having compatible ends, and this process is called DNA ligation. And fourth step is introduction of these recombinant DNA inside a suitable host cell. Here we are showing it as a bacteria. And this is called the process of cloning. Now, after this, we need to select those cells which have received the plasmid with the gene of interest, or in other words, that have received the recombinant DNA by a process called screening. So we can see here that the cloning step comprises of restriction enzyme digestion. So you can see here in details that restriction enzymes initially cuts the double-stranded DNA, and herein we have digested it with an enzyme called EcoR1, and it creates staggered ends or sticky ends. Similarly, the insert DNA is also created taking help of restriction enzyme digestion. When the vector DNA and insert DNA are joined together, they may be forming a linear DNA or they may be a circular DNA. Now, we will be discussing on the scientists who have initially started the story, and the credit goes to Matthew Michelson and Robert T. Yuan, who discovered the enzyme from E. coli K12 in the year 1968. And finally, the process gathered momentum with the findings of Werner Arber, Daniel Nathans and Hamilton O. Smith. They discovered restriction endonucleases in the year 1970. Let's highlight on the types of restriction endonucleases. In very brief, type 1 comprises of an enzyme with different subunits for recognition, cleavage and methylation. They recognize and methylate a single sequence but cleaves the DNA some 1000 base pairs away. On the other hand, the most popular restriction endonuclease is the type 2, which has got a symmetrical recognition sequence. It comprises of 2 different enzymes that either cleave or modify the recognition sequence. Type 3 is one enzyme with 2 different subunits, one for recognition and modification and one for cleavage. Recognizes and methylates the same sequence but cleaves almost 24 to 26 base pairs away. On the other hand, the type 2s are those with 2 different enzymes but recognizes the sequence which are asymmetric, unlike the symmetric recognition by type 2. The cleavage occurs on one side of the recognition sequence but almost 20 base pairs away. So you can see here the steps. Restriction digestion is taking place and we have created the gene of our interest with sticky ended overhangs there. Next step is, you can see the vector DNA is also digested with a compatible or similar restriction endonuclease. And in the third step, you can see that ligation is taking place and we are joining the EcoR1 digested DNA sample and the EcoR1 digested vector DNA or the plasmid DNA. What is ligation? Ligation is basically a process of joining of 2 pieces of DNA from different sources. and there are two different types of enzymes, namely E. coli DNA ligase and T4 DNA ligase, which are involved in joining of the two different DNA fragments. The difference lies in their cofactor requirements. For example, the T4 DNA ligase requires ATP as the cofactor, whereas E. coli DNA ligase requires NAD+ as its cofactor. But both of them finally lead to the formation of enzyme AMP complex. And what it does, that this enzyme AMP complex, as you can see here, binds to the nicked DNA and carries on the covalent linkage, which leads to the phosphodiester bond formation between the two nicked DNA samples, and finally leads to joining of the DNA. So whatever may be the cofactor requirements, the final active thing is the enzyme AMP complex. Next step is the transformation of the ligated product. Transformation can basically be done in two different ways. Number one is calcium chloride mediated transformation, where the cells are made competent by treating them with calcium chloride, and then the DNA is added to the competent cells by means of heat shock, and finally the recombinant DNA bearing cells are selected by screening them on antibiotic selection plates. Another method of transformation is by electroporation, wherein what we do, we take log phase E. coli cells and we treat them with glycerol, and then by means of electric pulse we are introducing the recombinant DNA inside the competent cells, and finally we are selecting them on antibiotic plates. And the final step of cloning is growing them on agar plates containing ampicillin or some other selection markers. This is the total average of the DNA cloning experiment. Now we are getting into the details of restriction enzyme digestion. As you can see that there are certain restriction endonucleases, namely BAMH1, which can create 5' overhangs. 5' overhangs means nucleotides which are single stranded in the 5' region of the DNA. Similarly, there are certain enzymes which can create 3' overhangs, namely KPN1, and there are certain enzymes that create blunt ends, means they cut the DNA symmetrically. Totally double-stranded DNA fragments are created. But during cloning, there may be situations wherein you need to convert a 5' overhang bearing DNA to a blunt-ended one, or a 3' overhang bearing DNA into a blunt-ended DNA. So these things can be performed by the use of certain enzymes. Namely, if I want to convert 5' overhang to a blunt-ended DNA, I will use clanO-DNA polymerase, which is used to fill up the 5' protruding ends with the dNTPs. As you can see here that the 5' to 3' polymerase activity of clanO-polymerase finally converts this 5' overhang DNA into a blunt-ended perfect DNA. On the other hand, if I want to convert a 3' overhang bearing DNA into a blunt-ended DNA, then I will be using the 3' to 5' exonuclease activity of the polymerase to chop up the 3' overhang and finally convert it into a blunt-ended DNA. These are required during the cloning process. One of the important challenges in cloning is the self-ligation of the vector. If I am using same restriction endonuclease, one restriction endonuclease to create the vector, then it may undergo self-ligation. To avoid this, we need to treat the DNA with alkaline phosphatases. What they do? They destroy the phosphates and convert the 5' phosphate bearing DNA into an OH group. And what is the benefit out of it? That if I have got OH at all the 4 ends, then the self-ligation of the vector DNA can be restricted. You can see here that phosphatase treated vector DNA doesn't undergo reclosure. It can undergo reclosure only when it undergoes ligation with an insert DNA which has got phosphates at its 2 ends. Thereby, we are promoting the formation of recombinant DNA. Next, if there are conditions, we are not getting exactly same restriction endonuclease cleavage sites in the vector as well as in insert, then what to do? We need to go for certain restriction endonucleases which create compatible ends. As you can see here, that a vector that is cleaved with BAMH1 can be used for cloning a insert DNA which is chopped up with BGL2. It means we may conclude that BAMH1 and BGL2 create compatible ends and can be used for cloning. Next is, if you are into a situation wherein you want to generate some new restriction endonucleases in your blunt-ended DNA, then what are the options? You will be using certain linker DNAs. What are linker DNAs? It comprises of restriction endonuclease recognition sites which can be generated by synthesizing DNA artificially. And what we do, that we add this linker DNAs along with the blunt-ended insert DNA molecule. And thereby, if I digest this insert with the restriction endonucleases now, then I can convert this blunt-ended DNA into a sticky-ended DNA, which is being made suitable to be introduced into a suitable cloning vector. Next challenge is, if you want to introduce certain new restriction endonuclease sites into your insert which are not available, then we can take help of PCR technology. In PCR technology, what we do, that we introduce restriction endonuclease recognition sites by introducing these sequences in the upstream region of the primer. And what happens, that during the PCR amplification, these BAMH1 site or EcoR1 site can be introduced in the flanking ends of the insert DNA. In this way, we can introduce really two different restriction endonuclease sites on the two ends of gene of our interest, which is really necessary to carry on directional cloning. So you can see here that if I want to carry on directional cloning, I need to have two different restriction endonuclease recognition sites. Here in the site is HIN3 and KPN1. What is the benefit of directional cloning is that the DNA is introduced in the preferred direction that you want. And this is really very important when you are interested in carrying on the expression of the gene. As because if the direction gets altered, then the expression will be not done. So we can understand the importance of directional cloning. Topo-TA cloning. This technology has gained real interest as because herein we don't need the use of restriction endonucleases and ligases to carry on the restriction digestion and joining of DNA. What we need topoisomerases. What topoisomerases do? That they recognize certain DNA sequences, namely CCC-TT. And what they do, that they will recognize these sequence and cleave the phosphodiester bond. And this topocloning is most suitable for cloning of tag DNA polymerase amplified PCR product into a cloning vector. Because tag DNA polymerase introduces an adenine residue at the 3' end of the DNA in a template independent fashion. So the vector should have an extra T to manage the introduction of that PCR product. What topoisomerase does? That it cleaves the phosphodiester bond and the energy that it gets is preserved in the formation of a linkage between the OH group of the tyrosine residue present in topoisomerase and the 3' phosphate. And later on, this energy is dissipated by formation of a phosphodiester bond between the PCR product, that is our gene of interest, and the vector DNA. And finally, the topoisomerase molecule is released. So herein you can see that one enzyme is carrying on the job of two different enzymes, and we really have minimized the number of steps. Now I am talking about the most promising technology of the era is the recombinational cloning. In recombinational cloning, we are using the novel site-specific recombination technique for transferring DNA sequences, which allow one universal strategy to move DNA sequences into a vector. This is a promising technology which is used for high throughput genomics and proteomics applications. This technology is named as Gateway Cloning System, and it is useful for directional cloning. It maintains the reading frame, and it doesn't require any restriction enzymes. It doesn't require any ligation. Moreover, it's a very short time spanning step. 1 hour room temperature reaction gives an efficiency of greater than 99%. And we don't need to go for sequencing to check the orientation, and it is compatible with automation, and reversible reactions make this technology most favorable. So you can see here that in gateway technology is basically utilizing the AT sites which are present in the lambda phage and the AT-B site which is present within the E. coli host. You can see here that the gateway system relies on 5 sets of specific and non-cross reacting AT sequences. You can see here that AT-P and AT-B undergoes integration leading to generation of AT-L and AT-R sites. This is the method how lambda phage undergoing lysogenic mode integrates inside the E. coli cell, and these enzymes are really used in gateway cloning. So how the things are being made? Number one is generation of entry clone. It is made taking help of AT-B1 and AT-B2 sites are comprising the gene, and this AT-B1 and AT-B2 sites are created by means of PCR. Then the donor vector containing kanamycin resistance gene and a counter selectable marker called CCDB is been flanked by AT-P1 and AT-P2 sites. And by the site-specific recombination methodology, you can see that the gene of interest get introduced inside the cloning vector. This is how the entry clone is created, and we can select this entry clone by means of kanamycin resistance gene. This entry clone, if once created, the gene of interest can be transported to many different vectors depending on the nature of the host. You can see here that how the entry clone is transferred into an expression clone. The gene of interest is there lying between AT-L1 and AT-L2. Then we have got the destination vector. Here the selection marker is ampicillin resistance, which is flanked by AT-R1 and AT-R2. A counter selectable marker is there. And we add the enzyme called LR clonase, which carries on the transfer of the gene from between AT-L1 and AT-L2 site to AT-B1 and AT-B2 sites. And herein the efficiency is 90 to 95% of the clones are the correct ones. So you can see here that by means of LR clonase reactions and BP reactions, gateway cloning system has really revolutionized the story of cloning technology, wherein not only the efficiency has been increased, but we have made the story much more easier by minimizing the number of steps, and we have increased the versatility of moving one gene from one host to other host. This lecture we have discussed the importance of restriction endonucleases and ligases to carry on the process of cloning. We have gone through the importance of converting a cohesive end DNA into a blunt-ended DNA. We have also discussed of the methods of generating restriction endonucleases of our choice. And finally, we have focused on the importance of topoisomerase based cloning, which is free of restriction enzymes and ligases. And we ended up our lecture by discussing the gateway cloning technology. Thank you.